From here again. Last year we spoke in Verviers about the Protocol 3 album. Now, nearly a year later, we already have a catch-up about the Protocol 4 album.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's, in which way is it a different album? You wrote all the songs?
Yeah, they're all my compositions. It's slightly different direction-wise. Still a little bit of world influence in a couple of the tracks. A little bit more groove orientated in places. A little bit more jazz orientated in places. It's funny. Just a natural progression of my composition skills, I think, and writing and influences, you know. But what really makes the difference, it's one thing writing the music, but the music has to come alive with the players, and that's what really gives it its sound. And even though my demos are pretty set in terms of arrangements, I always am open to changes when we start recording. Yeah. You just never know what develops, you know. And obviously, I love working with musicians who, you know, bring a lot to the table. I mean, whenever I do a session for somebody, I mean, I don't just sit there and play the song and say, that's it, I'm fine, done. I really, you know, get into it, and if I think there's things that could be improved from an arrangement or just a concept or something, I'll say it, you know, and because I want it to be the best it can be, you know. Yeah. Thankfully people, you know, do listen, which is great, you know. So it's very much one part is the composition, the basic concept, then the next part is how the musicians really take to it, where they take it to.
A little bit more funk involved on this album? Or
yeah, it kind of got like that, yeah. I wrote 2 songs.
Nothing more funky grooves?
Yes, there were, actually.
Still jazz?
It was, I wrote those 2 songs, the 2 ones that are more groove orientated, after we'd recorded all the other stuff, because of the way everybody's availability was. It was a few days free, and I didn't have enough material yet. So I was like, shit, I got 2 days, I better write something. And I was, the album up to then was really great, really happy with it. But I thought, you know what, I think enough of complex stuff, enough of lots of you know, changes and harmony and stuff like that. I thought, let's just write a couple of simple things. Let's try to keep it real groove orientated. And now I know what the players are and how they play, because I didn't when I wrote the material. And now I've learned. Then I went, okay. Now I'm going to tailor it more for Greg playing and more for, at the time, Dennis playing. So
was there a slightly difference because Greg is replacing Andy?
Yeah.
And Otmaro was replacing Steve from the last album?
Yeah. Oh,
is there a style?
Always, as soon as you change one person, there's a change.
Yeah.
You know, but I welcome that change. I think that would be important. I've always felt that if you have a band with certain members in, that sounds a certain way. If you replace a member, for me, you've changed the band. And that musician shouldn't try to replace the person he's replacing. It's a new person. Let him play, let him do his thing and bring what he brings.
You only have 2 instances in that.
Yeah. And in this case, we had both the guitar chair and the keyboard chair replaced with Greg Howe and Dennis Hamm. And then it turned out that Dennis couldn't do the touring because he's with a band called Thundercat, and they started doing really well and very successful. Yeah. And he said, look, I'm sorry, I've invested a lot of time into this band. And so then I said, okay, fine. And then I got Otmaro, who, there's another change there, which is really cool.
Yeah. You moved in '92 to LA. Is there a difference in session work and style of working, working in London studios or in LA?
I'd have to remember. Wow, that's over 25 years ago. What you have to remember is that the whole session business changed. I mean,
not a lot
it
of
doesn't
sessions
exist
anymore.
now.
No,
it doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, yeah, you know, there are sessions, but in terms of earning a living from doing studio work, I don't know anybody who can. I mean, most people are going home.
well, why has that changed from studio sessions, full sessions, to more guest appearances? What nowadays you do one or two tracks and.
It's to do with the business itself. Nobody buys records. There's not a record sale business. I mean, you know, you used to sell 500,000 copies to get gold in some countries and 250 in others. Now you sell 3,000 or 10,000. That's a huge difference. So we've got it's a different world. You know, kids that grew up, you know, from basic that were born 20 years ago. And since are not from a record culture, a record buying culture. You know, they listen to music on movies, television, and iPhones. It's true, they don't even really know that I don't even know where you can actually buy music.
No.
You know?
No.
Most of them don't even know what a CD is.
No.
I mean, it's really sad, and so that means our sales are down, so therefore our budgets. We don't have recording budgets. So most musicians, we have to finance our own projects. That's what we have to do. And I would say the majority of musicians who are making records now, unless they're signed to a record company, are financing themselves. And even if they're signed to a record company, they're dealing with a very small budget.
What's your favorite drum track of all time? Of all time, not specifically the ones you played or composed.
There's so many.
Yeah,
so many. Do you mean of other all
just
players?
in general from other drummers.
You know, it's funny. I don't really think music like that. I don't separate it out. I just do I like the record or not? You know.
Did you have it sometimes that you know, oh, that groove, I wish I had come up with it at some point?
No, I've created enough grooves. I think I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
And no, I just like really great records that are being produced well and sound great. I love great sounding records, regardless of the style of the music. You know, big fan of Peter Gabriel's records. He makes amazing records. And I actually played on one of his records too. He's a little frustrating to work with because he doesn't kind of go, yeah, that's great, let's move on to the next one. It's like it's always a work in progress. And I get the feeling with him, it's probably a work in progress all the way up to mastering. You know, he's probably thinking, you know, some artists are like that. But, you know, to me, just a really well-produced and cultivated track is to me a work of art. It's making records. I love the art of making a record, and that's what I find sad is because most of us can't do that anymore. You know, or we have to do it in a much shorter time, or every now and then, once a year, twice a year.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I mean, there's loads of tracks I could. I mean, okay. So one record comes to mind as a beautifully produced, played, composed, and mixed record, Jethro Tull, Thick as a Brick. Still one of my most favorite records of all time. Funnily enough, one of the few songs I can actually remember the lyrics to. I'm really bad with lyrics. I can never remember them. Never have.
I remember you told last time that you remember all the settings in the studios. You've done sessions.
I remember.
You know which control panel, which effects, models.
Yeah, I mean not everyone, because sometimes I don't remember the studio, but I could pretty much tell you if you give me an album title I'll probably be able to tell you the studio, what kind of console, what kind of tape machine, what kind of speakers, and who was engineering.
All the tracks, and then later on you have new musicians, or and then what do you develop your tracks on stage further? Is there any room, space for improvisation?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of improvising within the structure of the song. I mean, the general arrangements don't change that much, or haven't changed that much. Funnily enough, that might happen in a couple of years when you come back to doing something. You may do a different arrangement on it. But every night, every solo is different. So yeah, we did a couple of little modifications, because if you do a fade on a record, live you have to have an ending. So those are the little modifications, which is just normal, you know.
Okay. So tonight we're gonna watch a show.
Yes.
Still 5 shows or something in Europe, then you go to New York.
We have 7 more shows left in Europe, 31 shows in Europe total. Then we fly to New York City and we play 2 nights at the Iridium, and then another show in New Hope, Pennsylvania, then 2 shows in Chicago, 1 in Detroit, 2 shows in Los Angeles, 1 in Santa Cruz, 1 in San Diego, and 1 in Oakland.
Okay. Going to Asia as well?
We will do next year.
Yeah.
We go to Japan. At the moment, it's Japan, Hong Kong, Beijing. So we're waiting for some other dates to come in.
Okay, great.
Maybe South America, and then we'll come back to Europe in the summer. Do a bunch of festivals.
Oh, well, festival. Okay.
Great.
I want to thank you.
Thank you
For this time.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good luck tonight.
Thank you very much indeed.